Hello, my name is Yujilin, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Rambled canvas. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to name this one yet, but I'll probably figure something out the second I hit upload, or right before that. It is currently 16:44, 4:44, so it's a nice kind of uneven, even time to start recording, but either way, we're going to get started. I wanted to begin the podcast with a little poem, as always. I think it's just going to be the new thing now. I wanted to start with a poem that is very dear to me. It's one that I read when I was in elementary school. I think it's a relatively popular one. I mean, if they teach it in schools, it's probably is. It's by Robert Louis Stevenson, and it's called The Land of Nod. I remember when I first read this poem, even as like an elementary school student, I thought there was something really magical about it. And when you kind of go into what this poem is about, this kind of like dream land thing, and I know in my last episode I talked about dreams. I didn't go too into detail about dreams, and I won't go into detail about them today, maybe another time, because there is definitely a lot more that I have to say on that topic. But for the purposes of this particular episode, I found that the Land of Nod was just this like really magical place. And even if you read the poem, which I'll read to you in a second, obviously, even if you read the poem, it doesn't go too into detail about the Land of Nod, and kind of what it is. It describes it a little bit, but it doesn't go into the very little corners and knickknacks of it. It's just kind of like a general overview. But I think as a young child, listening to this poem, hearing this poem, reading this poem, I think it meant a lot more to me, or it felt a lot more to me. I felt the poem. I think, when you're young like that, you really have a big imagination, and it's really easy to come up with these big, massive worlds. So I think when you read The Land of Nod, I think now when you're a little bit older versus when you read it when you're maybe, 8 or something, I think your experiences are very different. But either way, I wanted to read this one because I was trying to think of what the poet for this episode should be, and I decided to land on Robert Louis Stevenson. And I was looking around and I was like, oh yeah, The Land of Nod. And I didn't even know that he wrote The Land of Nod. But anyways, I'm going to read it to you, and that's how we're going to start this episode. So, from breakfast on through all the day, at home among my friends I stay. But every night I go abroad, afar into the Land of Nod. All by myself I have to go, with none to tell me what to do. All alone besides the streams, and up the mountain sides of dreams. The strangest things are there for me, both things to eat and things to see, and many frightening sights abroad till morning in the Land of Nod. Try as I like to find the way, I can never get back by day, nor can remember plain and clear the curious music that I hear. I love the rhyming scheme in this one. Okay, this is just me. Writing poems that rhyme are so silly. They're entertaining, but they're so silly because you have to find a nice rhyme for it. Reading a poem that rhymes, it's hit or miss, but saying a poem out loud that rhymes always hits the spot. It feels so nice to read out loud, speak out loud, a poem that has really nice, perfect rhymes. So that's like my favorite. Those are my favorite types of poems, are the rhyming poems to speak out loud. But reading wise, my favorite poems would have to be the ones that are more complex and have a lot of vivid imagery. And writing, it's a little bit of both. But I want to talk about a couple lines first. So my favorite line is definitely the curious music that I hear. Emphasis on the curious part. I think the fact that, like, you can see this two different ways. Curious as in, like, the music will make you curious, or in the sense that the music itself is curious. And both of those sounds really fascinating. Another line I particularly like is many frightening sights abroad. Because when you look at the poem in a whole, the Land of Nod is supposed to be a pretty place. Well, it's implied that it's supposed to be a pretty place. From a child's perspective, because when I read this, I imagined this was a child saying this. When it says frightening sights, I was like, that's such an interesting description to call it. Like, you're talking about, just before that, you're talking about streams and you're talking about mountainsides of dreams, which is really pretty. And then right after that, you're talking about frightening sights, which I think is just an interesting thing. Like, it was something that caught me so off guard, reading this poem now for the second time and kind of looking at it and being like, oh, frightening. But what do you think that means? But yeah, curious music, and we will talk about music quite a bit in this episode. But yeah, so that's the first bit that we're gonna be doing. So yeah, Robert Louis Stevenson's The Land of Nod. I love The Land of Nod. It's one of my favorite little poems that I read. I'm gonna try to share more poems that I particularly enjoyed as a child, because I think those poems were really fundamental later on for me to write. It wasn't the sole thing, but looking back on certain poems that I remember reading as like an elementary school student and reading them back again and seeing them with fresh eyes, new perspective, seeing them again after many, many years, I think is going to be a cool experience. So, all right. So, next thing, films. I've seen so many films since I last made this, which would have been, February 17th, I think, was the end of the last one, the next one, the last episode. I'm pretty sure that's when I uploaded it, February 17th. And we are coming up to April. I love April. April is my favorite month, by the way, because that's when my birthday is. So I'm excited for that. So for films, I've seen a lot, but I wanted to talk about just a couple of them because I know the last episode I was talking about films. Like, I look back on that episode and I was talking about films for like the majority of the episode. And I was like, I look at the beginning part of that episode, and if you listen back, I talk about like, oh, I don't want to take up too much time, like, and go super into detail because I don't want to take that much time up in the episode, and I end up talking about the films for more than half the thing. So I promise you this time I'm not going to talk about films the entire time. I do have a plan in my head that I'm going to talk about more than just films. So I wanted to put a little bit of emphasis on a couple of specific ones and then just leave it at that, okay? So the main one I want to talk about is School of Rock. So if you follow me on my Instagram, there was kind of this funny thing that happened with School of Rock. So, School of Rock is great. Jack Black was in it, and that's the main reason I wanted to watch it, because he's a great actor. He's one of my favorites. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch School of Rock. And I've been wanting to watch School of Rock for a while. I just couldn't find the place to watch it, like the service to watch it on, and I finally did. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna watch it here. So I watch it, and I'm like, this is really, really good. But if you know how I am with reviewing movies, the only way a film is gonna get 5 stars is if, like, I absolutely love it with every single ounce of my being. So really, 4.5 stars is like the biggest compliment, because 5 stars is almost impossible. I try not to do that 5-star thing, really. I try to do it sparingly. I try not to be like, oh yeah, that's 5-star movie, when it's really not. So 4.5 stars is probably the biggest compliment you're gonna get from me, unless I absolutely love the movie. So, but what was funny was that I had multiple people, and this had never happened before, because I like putting my reviews for some films, not all of them, but some of the films that I watch, I like putting them on Instagram. And I like posting, like, whatever, like, not the review, but just, like, the star amount on Instagram. And I found that not multiple, sorry, yes, multiple people were responding to that story specifically for School of Rock. And I've never had this happen for any other film, because I've posted some films, and for example, a while back I watched The Perks of Being a Wildflower, and I rated that one 2 stars, and I had someone respond to me like, oh, it deserves better, you know. But School of Rock was the first time I had multiple people responding to that story saying, why is it not 5 stars? And I found that really funny. And it ended up escalating because I ended up getting multiple. So like I got one, so I posted it, and then I got another one, and so I posted that one, and then I got one that's like, no, don't change, like don't make it 5 stars, like stand your ground. So I posted that one, and then I got the same message by another person, like the same person from the first message. They were like, they were trying to, they were joking around and trying to hypnotize me into giving it 5 stars, and I found that so funny. And at that point, I had posted like maybe 4 stories about School of Rock at this point, and I actually got more after that, but I decided not to post them because it was like, this is really a long running joke at this point. But I got more messages about School of Rock after that from the same person. Like, this is not, you should do this. Like, you should rate it 5 stars. Shout out to them, by the way, because they ended up making a Letterboxd account just so they could rate School of Rock 5 stars, and I find that absolutely hilarious. So, but yeah, School of Rock is still going to be 4.5 stars for me, by the way. That's not going to change. Besides that, I watched Moonage Daydream, the David Bowie documentary, and that sent me down a spree of listening to a bunch of David Bowie. That one is a 5 stars, though, because that documentary is absolutely beautiful. If you get the chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. Besides that, I watched 2 Bob Dylan documentaries. I watched one called Bob Dylan: The Folk Years. I wanted to watch that one because my favorite era of Bob Dylan is definitely his early, like, folk times. I think I finally ended up picking my favorite album, and it was Bringing It All Back Home, followed by Highway 61 Revisited, followed by The Other Side of Bob Dylan, which were all released in the 60s. Just 60s Bob Dylan in general is like my favorite era of Bob Dylan. That's just me. But the folk years especially, you know, as someone who really, really loves folk music, that whole era of Bob Dylan, I loved seeing that documentary on that. And then I saw Bob Dylan Busy Being Born, which is kind of a bit more range, like a bit more broad. Like, it wasn't just focusing on one part of one particular decade or anything of Bob Dylan's career. It was kind of throughout the whole thing, so I thought that was cool. And then jumping late on this train, I can't believe it took me this long to watch this movie, but I just barely watched The Matrix. Yeah, 3.5 stars for that one. I thought it was cool, but not like super duper cool. I just watched the first one. I don't intend on watching any of the other ones because I'm just happy with how The Matrix ended, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But now I can finally get the red pill, blue pill references properly, because like I knew it was from The Matrix. Like, I knew they were from The Matrix. I just didn't actually watch the movie. So now I finally watched the movie. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna talk about for films, because I'm not gonna. There's other films that I watched recently, but nothing like too noteworthy. So we're gonna stay there for films. Moving on to music, I discovered Lead Belly. I don't know how you pronounce it. Him. I thought he was cool. Not too long ago, I recently got a folk CD, like a folk essential CD, and it has all the favorites. So like Woody Guthrie, Joan Baez, Pete Seeger, the Weavers, the Irish Rovers, etc., etc. It has a whole list of them. And I like That folk CD though was like, you could tell right away it was like pre-Bob Dylan. So there's no Bob Dylan folk songs on that. There's no Bob Dylan at all on that CD, which is fine because I have a lot of Bob Dylan physical media anyway. So one folk CD without Bob Dylan is gonna be fine. Besides that, I've been listening to a whole lot of the Velvet Underground. It's not even funny. And I think it's just because I've been looking at a lot of Andy Warhol's art recently, so I think that's why, but a lot of the Velvet Underground is what I've been listening to. Allen Ginsberg, I think that's been a joy to listen to, and Donovan. I always get, like, not concerned or worried, just kind of like, how will I end up pronouncing this name half the time? But you know what? It's fine. In terms of books, I'm currently reading 2 books. That's where we're going to stop with music, because there's really not too much. So yeah, lots of the Velvet Underground, lots of David Bowie, same old folk stuff. Besides that, just the same old music been listening to. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything else really for now. Maybe in the next one. For books, I've been reading 2 of them. So I've been reading Louder Than Hunger by John Schru, S-C-H-U, however you want to pronounce that. And it follows this teenage boy it's in verse, so that's why I wanted to read it, and it was for my book club, but it follows this like teenage boy struggling with a eating disorder, and the whole book is in verse, and it has like maybe like 500 something pages, but it goes by really fast because there's not too many words to a page because it's all poetry. But I've really been enjoying it. It's been sad, but it is a good book, so I do intend on finishing that pretty soon. And the next one is a book I got from the library. From the last episode, you know, I really love Emily Dickinson. She's definitely one of my favorite poets of all time. And so I found this book, and I've been reading it pretty quickly, but not too quickly, because that's the thing with poems. It's easy to read them quickly, but you have to be careful not to fall into that, because then you're not going to absorb it like you should. So, the complete poems of Emily Dickinson, and what I mean by the complete poems, I mean the complete poems, because it says that it has all 1,775 poems, which, as you know, if you know anything about Emily Dickinson, you'll know that within her lifetime, very little poems ever got published. So this is all after, you know. But I've been reading that, and if you're a little bit of a nerd, it's not the edited version, because, you know, after her death, they went and edit her poems because her formats were unconventional. So this is supposed to be the unedited editions before the editors edited it. Before the editors edited her poems. So it's supposed to be before that. So it's supposed to be in the original intentions that Emily Dickinson did. And there's a lot of care into it, put into it. So yeah, I've been reading that as well, just because her poetry's always been really inspiring. And I just want to read some good poetry. When we're talking about art, because I think that's it for books, just those 2. I try not to read too much at the same time, or else I'll end up reading nothing. So, for art, Andy Warhol, oh my goodness. The song Andy Warhol by David Bowie is probably fighting for like my favorite David Bowie song. And that's hard because there's a lot of good David Bowie songs. But it's because I really like Andy Warhol right now. and I really like David Bowie right now, so, like, the two of them combining together is, like, the most, even though Andy Warhol didn't really like that song at the beginning, it's fine. Besides that, for looking at appreciation, I've been appreciating Andy Warhol. I like his name. I like saying his last name, Warhol. Andy Warhol. Like, I just like his name. Maybe that's maybe that's why I got into his art so much, because his name is nice to say. Besides that, when it comes to my own work, I posted a painting of a friend of mine kind of looking out to a window recently. And I like that painting. That painting's pretty cool. You should go check it out. And then a couple days ago, I posted like a mandala with eyes. And someone said it looked like a biblically accurate angel. And I was like, yes, because that's exactly what I was going for. When I did the sketch for it, I was like, this looks like a biblically accurate angel. Like, the second I started adding eyes on it, and because eyes are kind of like a symbol of mine, which we'll get into a little bit later. Like, as soon as I started adding eyes to the sketch, I was like, oh yes, 100%, absolutely. This is amazing. This is incredible. This is a biblically accurate angel, because I love biblically accurate angels. And I don't know how biblically accurate they actually are, because that's what they're called, but I don't know if they're that accurate. I was trying to look, but I couldn't find anything. Maybe I need to just research a bit more. But regardless if they're biblically accurate or not, beautiful things. Absolutely beautiful. I don't find them terrifying at all. I think they're the most beautiful things ever. So yeah, I wouldn't be mad if that's what they looked like. So besides that, I'm going to talk about a little random thing that happened. And I promise it relates to the overarching topic that we're going to talk about. Because the two main things I wanted to discuss with you are authenticity and art, and then personal symbols. So those are the two big pieces. Instead of just rambling about my life, those are the two things I mainly wanted to talk about in this episode. So yeah, I recently got a gift, and it was an avocado. I got an avocado from a friend of mine, and it was wrapped in a bow. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. I recently celebrated 1 year since ringing the bell. 1 year ago, I rang that bell, signifying that I had beat cancer. And my friend gave me the avocado and called it like the elixir of life. And she knows I really love avocados. So that was like the sweetest thing ever. I almost wanted to cry. I love avocados so much. And I took Polaroids of the avocado, and they ended up turning out really, really bad. But I thought about using one particular photo as like the cover for the spoken word poetry album, because spoiler alert, guys, I have that all recorded, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get it all posted. Oh my god. This is how I tell you. But no, yeah, I'm probably gonna use the photo I took of the avocado as the cover of it, because I like avocados and I like it. So no, that album that I talked about last month, it's coming. Like, I've been talking about this for forever, but I promise you it's actually coming this time. So yeah. I'm excited for that. And besides that lovely little avocado gift, which thank you so much. I know she listens to these episodes, so if you're out there, thank you so much. I love it with everything I have. Besides that, a little random thing that happened to me was I went and got a fortune cookie, which I love fortune cookies so much. They're so cool. I think the fortune cookie itself is really good, but the fortune's obviously the best part. So I posted on my story, and my fortune was, be prepared to accept a wondrous opportunity in the days ahead. I have no idea what it's supposed to be referring to, but I'm really excited. So yeah, that's so random, but I'm wishing you guys a wondrous opportunity as well. So switching right back to the avocado, because I promise you the avocado has relevance to what I'm trying to talk about, which is authenticity in art. I wanted to make the avocado because the avocado was so special just because it was gifted to me and it wasn't just a random avocado that I got, because it had the intention of being a gift. I wanted to turn it into a performance piece. But I was talking to her and I was talking to another friend of mine, kind of in the group chat. I was talking to them and I was like, I wanted to turn the avocado into some kind of performance piece. Like, I wanted to kind of like, either like cut it and eat it as a performance piece, or like do something with the avocado and turn it into a performance piece. But then I was like, wait, then no, because then it would just be like, then I would be super conscious of like the way I ate it, and then I feel like it wouldn't be like what it was intended to be, and then it would just feel fake. And then it really got me thinking about authenticity and realness in creating artwork and posting artwork, and where does the line draw, like where do you draw the line? But that's what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about authenticity in art and where we draw the line, and where does it go between where is the line where it's purposeful thinking in the way we present our art, and when it's just flat out lies. Like, where do we draw the line? And that's what I want to talk about. So, first off, what makes an artist feel real to me? What makes an artist feel real? How do you know when an artist is real, and how do you know when they're just in it for the attention or the popularity or the money even? And when I say artist, I'm usually referring to like painter artist, drawing artist, but this can be music artist. It can be just any form of artist in general. That's kind of what I thought of at the beginning, but it's kind of more in general. So what makes an artist real? What makes an artist real to me? I think to me, to make an artist real is to be genuine. But then you can go off and say, what does it even mean to be genuine? What makes your art genuine? What makes your art actually like worth like true emotion? And I think to that I say that if there's real feeling behind it, then it's genuine. And if there isn't, then it's not genuine. So, like, in terms of, like, music, is a real artist, like, what? Like, raw lyrics? Like, a unique form of storytelling? Or just, like, not selling out? I mean, if you're talking about, like, actual artists, so, for example, I hate to talk about him all the time, but, like, Bob Dylan. I mean, I promise you it actually relates. But, like, how Bob Dylan found a formula. It's sold. For example, he sold himself as this, like, folk singer. Right? He was this folk singer. And then he went electric. Right? And then once he got the hang of that, then he switches. And then he does something else. And then he does something else. And he does something else. Because most people would find what works. They would find the formula that works, that would make them money. And they would stick with that, and they would continue making money. But I feel like real artists, I think once you get to a place of comfort, you kind of got to keep going. And you kind of got to switch. You got to try something new, or else you'll just get bored. But not just that, but think about, okay, say you were an artist, probably are. Say you were an artist and you actually got attention, you got money flowing in. Does commercial success take away from authenticity? I mean, think about it. Like, if you start having money coming in, will that change how authentic you are about your art? Will that change the rawness of your art? The larger scope of an audience that you have, is it harder for you to take risks? do you think it would be harder for you to take risks? Would you even take risks? Like, if you got to a certain point where, like, you have this huge, massive fan base and they all asking for the same thing, would you stick with that? Or would you take that leap and go off and do something else? Food for thought. And I think from that, what really becomes into reality is, like, there's certain artists, and I think it depends on, your perspective. So I'm not going to name any names, but I feel like there's certain artists out there that even though they're famous, they feel deeply personal and they still feel authentic. But even if you're not famous, how much of your art is a performance? How much of what you say is a performance? How much of what you write is a performance? How much of what you say, act, do, think, how much of all that is just, like, put on a show? Whether it be for Instagram likes or YouTube subscribes. How much of that is, like, just fabricated? Because the internet is such a strange place. And when you post anything, none of it's ever truly authentic. But the question is, how much of it is authentic? Because if nothing is ever truly authentic online, because at the end of the day, you are putting on some form of filter whenever you upload something, how much of that is taken away and how much of that is actually you? Or are you faking this whole thing? I don't know. It's food for thought. Something to think about. If you're an artist, influencer, whatever, like, think about yourself and think about the people that you consume, the content you watch. How much of that do you think is, like, genuine? And how much of that is just stuff for the money or the attention? And where does the line draw? Because if we were to only ever post the mundane or create the mundane or do the mundane, how much attention would you really have? I mean, how much recognition would you really have if you, like, posted a picture of, like, a raw, unedited picture of, like, your breakfast in the morning or something? Unless you have a big fan base already, no one's going to pay attention to that. So, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, where is the line drawn? Like, staying true to yourself and your emotions and the things that you think about and your opinions, that all of that is so uniquely individualized to each person. How much of that is authentically expressed through the content you make, and how much of that is kept inside of you, and how much of it do you say to the people you know, but keep from the people outside your little inner circle? And where's the line draw between staying true to yourself and staying authentic and appealing to the audience that you have, or the ideal audience that you're trying to create? And those questions are all kind of hard to answer, and I can't really give you one fully. My personal thoughts is, just the end of the day, if it has real emotion behind it or a feeling, then it's genuine. And if it doesn't, then it's not. But that doesn't make that piece of art any less valuable, because it still came from your hands. So that's on the first topic, which is authenticity in artwork. Bringing things down a little bit, We're hitting around the 35-minute mark around here, so I promise you I'm not going to keep you for too much longer. I want to talk about personal symbols. Now, if a year ago today you would have asked me if I had any personal symbols, I probably would have told you no. But the truth is, I probably had some for quite a while. There's one that I've had for a while. First, I want to talk about numbers. What's your favorite number? Is it 7? Is it, I don't know, 3? Maybe it's something very oddly specific, like 1,256. Or maybe you're one of those people that, rare people, but maybe you're one of those people that like a negative number, so like negative 20. Or maybe your favorite number is a decimal, like 2.65. And how do you know when a favorite number is your favorite number? And how often do you change that favorite number? Do you even have a favorite number? And what does that number mean to you? I recently started a project called the 19 Project. So my favorite number has been the number 19 for a very, very long time because of its association with my birthday. But not just because of that, but I think because 19 is objectively the best number, which is why it's my favorite. But let me explain why I think it's the best number. 19 represents both the beginning and the end. Okay, technically, the first number is 0, and then it goes on. But 0 is kind of like that bridge between the positives and the negatives. So technically, the numbers start at 1. And technically, the last number is 9. Because all the other numbers are just made up of those numbers, right? All the numbers are every single number is either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And if we remove the 0, because 0 is just a strange number, which, by the way, if 0 is your favorite number, that's beautiful. But if we take away 0, it would be 1, and it would end at 9. The beginning is 1, and the end is 9. Therefore, 19 represents both the beginning and the end. And that might sound crazy, but please, I promise you that actually does make sense, right? Because if we're starting at number 1, and we end at number 9, 1, 9, 19. But that's kind of the reason I gave myself for loving the number 19 so much, besides the fact that it just represented my birthday. So number 19. And so the 19 Project is essentially, whenever I see the number 19, I take my phone out and I take a picture of it. And so now I have this album on my phone that's just pictures of the number 19, whether it's written on the board or on the street or in a book. If I'm reading a book and I'm on page number 19, I'll take a picture of the book. And when you look for something, you'll find it a lot more. I know about 2 years ago, I had this thing where one of my symbols was butterflies. They're not anymore, but they were butterflies. And I found butterflies all the time. And I did the same thing with like what I did with the 19 Project, which was I took a picture of every single butterfly I saw. And I ended up figuring out that there were a lot more butterflies in this world than I thought. So number 19. 191919. I might make a album or something that's called 19. Because I like 19. But yeah, if I had to pick a favorite number, a special number to me, it'd be 19. But taking a step back, further back to when I posted this thing on my story, and I asked people if they were 2D shape, specifically 2D shape, because if you let people pick a 3D shape, everyone's gonna say cube or something. So no, 2D shape. If you were a 2D shape, what color would you be? And what shape would you be? And let me just say, and I told this to a friend of mine, but again, I don't know what it was, but a lot of people said blue triangle. And I had people telling me, I feel like I would be this, but like I want to be a blue triangle. Why does everyone want to be a blue triangle? And so I talked with another friend about it, and I was like, do you think there's a reason as to why it's a blue triangle? Because that one person asked me, and then I told another person, because I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't really know why people pick the blue triangle. And then when I talked to another friend, he was like, oh, well, I think it's because, like, triangle's the most beautiful, like, shape in nature, because it's perfect. And that really got me thinking. Because a triangle's a fine shape. There's nothing wrong with a triangle. There's nothing wrong with any of the shapes, actually. Except maybe the oval. Okay, I'm just making stuff up now. This is Rambled Canvas, right? I'm supposed to be rambling. That's the point of this whole thing, so. But I was like, okay, yeah, blue triangle. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. And what's interesting is that there's always the shape that you want to be and the color you want to be, but that doesn't mean that's what you're going to be. So, you could have someone, they want to be the color green, but they'll actually be the color orange. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. I'm sorry to tell you, but, like, this is, it's such a random question, but I think it really does give you a form of perspective on the way that people perceive themselves. There's something as simple as a shape or a color. And surprisingly enough, as much as I talk to my friends about this, nobody asked me what my shape would be or my color would be, which is kind of sad, but it's fine. So if you care, I don't know what color or shape I'd actually be. To be fair, I did ask the question, which one would you be? Not really. There's which one you want to be, and there's which one you actually are. I don't know which one I'd actually... Oh my god. I don't know which one I actually would truthfully be, but I can tell you which one I would want to be, if that makes any sense. I'd be a gray semicircle. And the reason why for that... Well, gray because gray is my favorite color. And why is gray my favorite color? Because it represents, to me, it represents the true blend of it all, of good and evil. The two extremes, black being one extreme, white being the other extreme. The middle of the spectrum. The blend of it all. And semicircle because it's always halfway there. You know, and I don't look at it as in a negative sense where it's like, oh, you're only half of what you're supposed to be. I don't think of it like that. I think of it as like, I'm halfway there. You know, all the stuff I want to do, I'm halfway there. All the goals I have, I'm halfway there. You know, all this potential, halfway there. Keep going. You're almost there. It's kind of like a progress thing. I see semicircle as a progress. You know, I'm not that perfect circle yet. But I will be. Well, no, it won't be perfect, but I'll reach whatever it is I want to reach. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I'll reach whatever it is I want to reach. So, other personal symbols. Avocado, like we talked earlier. Avocado is probably my food symbol. So, like, if I had a piece of food that was a symbol, I'd probably say an avocado. And then crows. Crows. Crows aren't actually, like, my favorite animal ever. My favorite animal ever is probably the giant isopod. Which, if you don't know what they are, they're like pill bugs, but giant and in the ocean. I call them pill bugs, but they're also called, like, roly-polies and, like, I forgot what the other thing. There's other ways to call them that, but I've heard roly-polies the most where I live, but I call them pill bugs, so. But yeah, either of those you can probably search up. Mini isopods, giant isopods. So, yeah, crows. But I like crows because they're birds, and they're dark, and, like, they're dark. Like, I like darker animals, like panthers or black cats. I don't know what it is about them, but I like them a lot. So I like crows. I like the sound that they make, and I like their symbolism. So a year ago, if you asked me what my personal symbols were, I'd probably tell you, I don't know. But if I really thought about it, I really do like avocados, crows, and the number 19. So those are probably mine. So 2 last things I have before I let you go. This episode, I feel like I'm putting kind of a curse. Not a curse, but I feel like if you look really closely, I know this is only the 4th episode, but if you look really closely, each episode is getting longer than the last one. So, I mean, goody, I guess. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll break it next time, maybe we won't. So I have 2 things for you. I have the outro poem. Before that, I want to give you a tarot reading. So I'm going to do just 1 card because we don't have time for this. Well, I mean, I do, but I don't want to keep you guys here a lot longer. So I'm going to do a tarot reading for you. I'm going to shuffle my deck. And I'm going to pull 1 card out. And I'm just going to tell you the name of the card. And if you know what tarot cards mean, then you'll know. And if you don't, this will be a learning opportunity. So I'm going to just tell you the name of the card. I'm not going to tell you what the card means. I'm just going to tell you the name of the card. And it's up to you to go out and figure out what that card means. And it'll be a learning lesson for you. Because I do want to do tarot readings on this channel eventually. Because I think they're cool. And I think it'd be interesting to do something, I guess. It's not completely individualized because I've only ever done tarot readings for the people around me and myself, naturally, because that's how you learn. But I think it would be interesting to do something towards, like, the internet and see how many people, like, it resonates with. So, yeah, I promise you I'm only going to give you 1 card, and I'm not going to tell you what it means, and you're going to have to go search it up yourself. And if you don't want to, then boom, you're just not going to know. So, yeah. Oh, another thing, funny thing about the tarot cards. I shuffle them 19 times, so when I shuffle the cards, every once in a while, like, I'll do, like, an individual card shuffle, which I'll lay out every single card just, like, flat out in front of me, and I'll mix them, and I'll pick them one by one, like, based on which ones, like, I'm drawn to, so I individually one by one, so it takes a really long time to shuffle them that way, but I believe it's the best way to shuffle. But when I shuffle them, like, before I do a reading, I shuffle them 19 times specifically. So that's another example of how I use 19 as a thing. So I always shuffle it 19 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to pick off the top. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay. I have the card deck here. The first card on the top is going to be your tarot card. Again, not going to tell you what it means. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You got the Ace of Swords. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You got the Ace of Swords. So do with that what you will. Ace of Swords. That's what you got. And that's not what I got. That's what you got. So, Ace of Swords. And the way I'm going to end this episode is by reading you one of my other favorite poems by Robert Frost. I love you, Robert Frost. Robert Frost. The classic. Nothing Gold Can Stay by Robert Frost. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so dawn goes down to day. Nothing gold can stay. And that's how I'm going to end this episode. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for sticking around for the longest episode yet. And I'll see you in the next one. It was really fun. It's been like a month, but I'm glad this new episode's here. So I had fun recording this. and I had a great time. So I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have a happy rest of your March and a happy April. So